Welcome to the Johnson County Library series, Getting Started with the 3D Printer. This tutorial will cover how to use our Ultimaker S3 3D printer. Let's start with some of the basics of the 3D printer and its capabilities. This is an FDM style 3D printer, or fused deposition modeling. This printer has a dual extruder, meaning we can have two different types of material printing at the same time. The printer works by slowly pushing a strand of plastic through these tubes into a heated extruder, which is not so different than a hot glue gun, but more precise because the motion is being controlled by a computer. This method of additive manufacturing combines layers of materials fused together in a pattern to create an object. As you can see, the printer is now just getting started, depositing its first layer of material on the build plate. Getting a close-up on the material, you can see that first layer is very thin, usually no thicker than the diameter of the nozzle, which is less than half of a millimeter. To continue showing you the model printing, we need to speed it up. This is part of the reason this is not the type of machine you would use in mass manufacturing. It's not quick enough, but it is excellent for prototyping at a low cost. Now let's talk about some of the software that you can use to actually create your own 3D models. All3DP is a great website for reviewing all things digital fabrication when it comes to 3D printing. They cover some of the basic free software as well as web-based software. One that we highly recommend for beginners is called Tinkercad. Another one, if you're coming from more of a graphic design background, is Vectory. If you're looking for a program with a lot more capabilities but isn't quite as user-friendly, Meshmixer is a great option. If you're looking for a program that can do a little bit of everything, SketchUp has got a lot to offer as well. Blender has a ton of features and is used for animation and 3D modeling, but has a much steeper learning curve. Here's an example of a 3D model being created in Tinkercad. Tinkercad simplifies the 3D modeling process to make their software more approachable for beginners. But because it is so easy to use, more advanced users may prefer it to create quick and simple models. If you would like to learn more, please check out tinkercad.com or click on the resource links provided with this tutorial. Okay, now that we have created a 3D model, we need to download it. Before moving forward, make sure you either have an STL or OBJ file type. Before we can print the 3D model, we need to load the model into the software that runs our 3D printer. That software is called Cura. This type of software are commonly referred to as slicers because they take a 3D model and break it into individual layers or slices and give the printer the instructions to print the model on its X and Y and Z axes. To get started, first we need to import the model. Now that the 3D model is showing up on the build plate, let's take a look at some of the features in Cura. The number 1 spool is showing our material, which is PLA. Our number 2 spool is showing our other material loaded. The rendering even shows the color. So if I select the model, select number 2, the white TPU, then the model will change colors, showing you which filament it's going to print. Okay, let's take a look at some other features in Cura for modifying your model to prepare for 3D printing. On the upper left-hand side, there's an icon for moving the object. Once selected, you can move the object by changing the variables inside the X, Y, or Z coordinates. You can also select the blue arrow to move the Z axis, the red arrow to move along the X axis, and the green arrow to move along the Y axis. Keep in mind, you do want the bottom of the model to be at 0 on the Z axis. can also change the scale of your model. Again, by pulling any one of the green, red, or blue nodes. You can rotate the model in the X, Y, and Z coordinates. You can mirror it. There are other advanced features like changing the type of infill or supports to this model. Okay, let's take a look at the other basic features. The layer height. Right now, the layer height is set at 0.2 millimeters. 0.2 millimeters is a standard layer height for getting the model printed at a relatively quick pace, but not a super high resolution. 20% infill is also the default setting, meaning that the print is not 100% plastic. About 80% of the volume of the model will be air. You can also select whether or not you need supports or additional adhesion to make sure that your print sticks to the build plate while it's printing. This particular model, because of the overhang, will definitely need supports. Let's take a look at the supports. Click Slice, and now Preview. The light blue material is the support material. Because the plastic comes out heated up to around 210 degrees Celsius, it comes out as a liquid. As it progresses from the first layer up, once it gets to the overhang, if there's no material, solid material underneath it, then that filament would just drop straight down on the print or on the build plate. As you can see, this model is going to be 138 layers. You can also change views and take a look at the print midway through the print at any point. Taking a look at how the infill is being built as well as the supports to make sure your print will be completed correctly. The last thing you need to do is hit print via cloud. This concludes the tutorial Getting Started with the 3D Printer at the Johnson County Library Makerspace.